The void stretched endlessly before them, a canvas of cold, infinite black dotted with distant stars. Within that abyss, the Leviathan emerged from the darkness, a monolithic warship, so vast it seemed more like a drifting fortress than a vessel. Its hull, an expanse of plated armor infused with the latest in human warfare technology, absorbed the faint light around it, rendering it a silent specter in the cosmic sea. Commander Elias Vance stood at the bridge, his hands clasped behind his back, eyes fixed on the viewing screen. His face, weathered by years of military service, was unreadable, yet those who had served under him long enough knew the telltale signs of his tension, the slight twitch of his jaw, the careful stillness of his breathing. He had commanded battleships before, but nothing like this. The Leviathan was Earth's greatest creation, a ship designed not just to explore, but to dominate. "The signal source is 2,000 clicks ahead," said Lieutenant Celine Ward, her voice crisp but edged with curiosity. She was young, brilliant, and one of the few officers aboard who seemed more excited than wary of what lay ahead. No visible threats, just the alien craft. A single vessel. Elias narrowed his eyes. For weeks, Earth had monitored the transmission, a repeating sequence of symbols, undecipherable but unmistakably intelligent. The discovery had sent shockwaves through every level of human society. First contact, proof that they were not alone. The world's leaders had debated endlessly, but in the end, fear had dictated their course. Humanity's first step into galactic diplomacy would be taken with a warship at the helm. "It's smaller than expected," remarked Lieutenant Gideon Holt, arms crossed over his broad chest. His voice, always laced with skepticism, carried the weight of experience. He was one of the most decorated tactical officers in the fleet, handpicked for this mission, because he understood war in a way few others did. "If they're hostile, this is an invasion force. Maybe a scout. Or an emissary," Celine countered. Elias let the thought linger. Every possibility had been considered before they departed, but it was impossible to predict what lay ahead. Humanity's history with itself had been a brutal one. Misunderstandings had started wars for less. He exhaled slowly. "Bring us within 500 clicks. Keep weapons offline, but I want shields at full capacity. No unnecessary movements." The crew obeyed, their motions synchronized, the air taut with anticipation. The Leviathan advanced, closing the gap between them and the unknown. The alien vessel drifted in perfect stillness, its design wholly unfamiliar. Smooth, curved surfaces, its structure almost organic in its symmetry. No visible propulsion systems, no external weapons, no indication of hostility. Then the transmission changed. A new pattern, faster, urgent. Elias felt a shift in the room as the crew reacted to the unseen force of history pressing down upon them. Celine worked quickly, analyzing the alterations in the signal. "They know we're here," she murmured. "Of course they do," Holt muttered. "We're flying a goddamn monster into their backyard." Elias turned to his communications officer, Ensign Kaido Run. "Send a standard greeting. Slow, deliberate. Make it clear we're not a threat." The message was transmitted. Silence followed. Seconds stretched unbearably. Then the alien ship moved. A slow, careful drift forward. Not aggressive, not retreating. A response. The tension on the bridge coiled tighter. Every instinct in Elias screamed caution. Every historical precedent warned against optimism. Receiving a response, Kaido announced, adjusting the audio systems. Patching it through, a voice filled the bridge. Or something like a voice. It was layered, harmonic, neither wholly mechanical nor entirely organic. The syllables twisted and bent in ways no human tongue could replicate. Celine's hands flew across her console, running translation programs. "It's adapting," she whispered. "They're trying to match our language." The words shifted, became clearer. The sound was still alien, but the meaning was forming. "Human ship, we see you." The bridge went utterly silent. Elias stepped forward. His throat was dry, his pulse hammering in his ears, but his voice remained steady. "We acknowledge you. We come in peace." A pause. Then, "Why do you bring the weapon?" The question struck like a hammer. Elias didn't answer immediately. Around him, the crew exchanged uneasy glances. The Leviathan had been built as a safeguard, but to anyone unfamiliar with human fears, it must have looked like a harbinger of destruction. Celine spoke first, her voice quiet but firm. We didn't know what to expect. We wanted to be prepared. The response was slower this time, as though the speaker was deliberating. Prepare for peace or war? Elias exhaled. For understanding. Another pause. Then a shift in the alien vessel formation. Panels moving, revealing something beneath. Weapons? Shields? A signal of trust or impending attack. The moment teetered on the edge of fate. The alien ship shifted, its sleek, organic hull unfolding in deliberate movements. Panels glided apart, revealing intricate structures beneath. A deep violet glow pulsed from within, casting an eerie, rhythmic light across the void. The Leviathan's bridge fell into an uneasy silence as every officer and crew member processed the implications. A threat? A gesture of trust? The line between the two had never been thinner. Elias Vance kept his posture rigid, hands clasped behind his back, his mind working through the possibilities. The alien's question still hung in the air. Prepare for peace or war? It was a challenge, spoken in careful, broken words that hinted at a species attempting to bridge an impossible gap. Celine Ward's fingers flew over her console, tracking every subtle energy fluctuation emanating from the alien vessel. No signs of weapons charging, she murmured. At least, nothing we can recognize as weapons. That doesn't mean they don't have them, Gideon Holt countered, his voice a blade sharpened by instinct. He leaned forward, eyes locked on the shifting alien form. I don't like it. They're showing us something, but we have no idea what it means. Elias knew Holt wasn't wrong. This was the first true test of their judgment, an interpretation that could mean the difference between first contact and first conflict. He turned toward the communications officer, Kaido Run. Send another message. Make it clear we intend no harm, but request clarification. What are they showing us? Kaido hesitated for only a fraction of a second before transmitting. The message drifted across the gulf of space, swallowed into the alien craft's dark hull. The response came quickly, though imperfectly structured. We show to speak. Celine's brow furrowed. To communicate? A pause. Then a more refined reply. To speak truth. Something about the phrasing sent a ripple of unease through the bridge. Elias glanced at Holt, whose jaw tightened. Truth? What do they think we're hiding? Before Elias could respond, the violet glow within the alien vessel pulsed brighter. The Leviathan's sensors flared in response, detecting an incoming energy pattern. Not a weapon, but something targeted. Then, without warning, the ship was inside them. Not physically, not in the way human minds understood movement. One moment, the alien vessel was a shape before them. The next, it was everywhere, its presence sinking into their ship, into their minds. The bridge blurred, the edges of reality bending inward, and suddenly Elias was somewhere else. A place vast and luminous, constructed from shifting walls of liquid light. He was standing, but not on anything solid. He could feel the Leviathan, distant yet tethered to him. Holt and Celine were beside him, their forms flickering as though reality couldn't quite decide whether they belonged here. Then, figures emerged from the shifting walls. Tall, slender beings of iridescent skin and elongated limbs. Their eyes, black pools of endless depth, studied him with something between wariness and expectation. They had no mouths, no visible way to form words. Yet when one stepped forward, Elias heard it speak, directly into his thoughts. You carry the Leviathan. Elias steadied himself, instinct screaming to retreat, to fight, but he forced his mind into control. Yes, he answered, his voice oddly small in this vast place. We mean no harm. We. You bring war. The words hit harder than they should have. Celine stepped forward. That's not why we're here. We didn't know what to expect. The alien's gaze, if it could be called that, shifted toward her. Expectation shapes reality. Holt exhaled sharply. What the hell does that mean? Another figure approached, its skin rippling with colors Elias couldn't name. Your ship is fear. Your ship is death. We hear your thoughts. You wait for attack. You expect battle. Elias swallowed hard. The Leviathan was a fortress. It was built with war in mind. But was that all it was? He forced himself to remain steady. We also came to understand you. Then why do your weapons speak before your words? Silence. The weight of the question settled over them, a suffocating truth they had no easy answer for. Holt's voice cut through the stillness. Because we don't know you. The alien turned its head, considering him. Holt pressed on. We come from a world where trust is dangerous, where making the wrong assumption can cost lives. We built the Leviathan to survive, not to conquer. The being seemed to absorb the words, the air around them pulsing in waves of deep blue. A different voice, softer, echoed in their minds. Then we are the same. Celine's breath caught. You built weapons too. The tallest figure stepped forward. Once, when we were afraid, a silence stretched between them, heavy with history. Then, the shimmering world around them rippled, and the vision broke apart. The Leviathan's bridge reassembled itself in a violent snap, dragging Elias and his crew back into reality. The alien ship still loomed before them, but the energy that had engulfed them faded. Elias exhaled, his mind still reeling. They had seen something, felt something, a glimpse into the minds of these beings, into their fears. Kaido's voice was shaky as he spoke. Incoming message. The screen flickered, displaying the translated text. We understand your fear. We wait for your truth. Elias looked at his crew. The moment had passed, but the decision remained. Would humanity answer with honesty, or with the Leviathan? Elias stood motionless on the bridge, the weight of the alien message pressing against his thoughts. We wait for your truth. The words lingered, not as a simple request, but as a challenge. Every instinct told him to proceed with caution, but caution had already brought them to the edge of conflict. The Leviathan's very existence had set this encounter on unstable ground. The aliens had seen their fear, understood it, even mirrored it. But had they accepted it? Or were they waiting for humanity's next move to decide whether they were an ally or a threat? Celine broke the silence first. If we don't answer, they'll make their own assumptions. Elias nodded, but before he could respond, Holt spoke. We already answered. We answered the moment we arrived with this ship. No matter what we say, they'll always see the Leviathan first. He wasn't wrong. The Leviathan was a statement, a declaration of power. Even stripped of its weapons, it would still loom over the alien vessel like a shadow of war. Kaido's voice cut through the tense quiet. Captain, they're moving. The alien ship was shifting again, its fluid architecture adapting, responding. The violet glow pulsed in slow, rhythmic patterns. Then, without warning, dozens of smaller vessels detached from its body, dispersing in all directions. Holt stiffened. That looks a hell of a lot like a battle formation. Celine's fingers danced over a console, scanning. No energy spikes. No weapons locking onto us. They're positioning but not attacking. Elias forced his mind to move past instinct, past fear. The aliens were responding to them, mirroring their caution. They weren't starting a fight. Not yet. But if they continued standing still, locked in a cycle of mutual uncertainty, someone would break first. He turned to Kaido. Open a channel. Direct, audio and visual. No filters, no delays. Kaido nodded, and a moment later, the main screen flickered. At first, there was only shifting darkness, then the faint outline of one of the alien figures, its iridescent skin reflecting deep hues of blue and green. The connection wavered as the alien adjusted to the transmission, its black eyes unreadable. Elias spoke carefully, his voice steady. We did not come to fight. The alien was still for a long moment. Then, its layered voice resonated through a bridge. Then why do you wait? Holt let out a slow breath. They think we're stalling. Elias clenched his jaw. The alien wasn't wrong. Every second that passed, they hesitated, calculating their next move, looking for an advantage, even if they weren't planning to use it. It was the same game humanity had played with itself for centuries. But this wasn't Earth. This was something new, and the rules had to change. He took a step forward. We wait because we are afraid, not of you, but of making the wrong choice. The alien tilted its head, considering. The glowing patterns along its body shifted to a muted silver. We have seen war, the alien said. We have lived war. Elias felt the weight in those words, the kind of weight that only came from experience, from loss. Celine stepped forward. Then, you know why we came prepared. You know why we can't afford to be reckless. The alien's form rippled with darker shades. To prepare for war is to shape war. A sharp beat from Celine's console interrupted the exchange. Her eyes flicked over the readings, then widened. Captain, something's happening. The alien vessels, still spread around them, began shifting their positions, not in aggression, but in reaction. Something else had entered the system. Kaido's hands flew across his controls. New contacts. Multiple. They just dropped out of FDL unknown origin. The bridge tensed. Elias turned to the screen. The alien's eyes flickered, and for the first time, there was something recognizable in them. Fear. They followed us, the alien whispered. Holt straightened. Who? The alien didn't answer, but the view screen shifted, showing the new arrivals. Ships, angular and jagged, dark as obsidian, with pulsing veins of molten red streaking across their surfaces. There were no greetings, no transmissions, just a rapid acceleration, moving directly toward both the Leviathan and the alien fleet. Celine's voice was tight. Their weapons hot. Holt's hands hovered over the Leviathan's tactical controls. Orders, Captain? Elias turned to the alien. Who are they? The alien's voice was no longer measured. It was certain. Destroyers. A single word, heavy with meaning. And then, the first blast of energy tore through the void. The first blast of energy streaked through the void, illuminating the bridge in a harsh, crimson glow. Alarms blared as the Leviathan's automated systems registered the attack. Shields flaring to absorb the impact. The alien fleet scattered, their vessels moving with eerie precision, flowing around the incoming fire like a school of fish reacting to a predator's strike. Elias gripped the edge of his command console, his mind racing. The destroyers had come fast, with no warning, no attempts at communication. They weren't here to negotiate. They were here to eradicate. Defensive formations, he barked. Do not fire unless fired upon again. Focus on protecting that fleet. Holt's fingers danced over the tactical controls, but his expression was grim. We're already a target, Captain. If we hold fire too long, we won't get a second chance. Celine's voice cut through the chaos. The alien fleet's evading, but they're not returning fire. Elias turned back to the view screen, where the alien leader remained, its shifting colors now dark and unreadable. Do you have weapons? A pause. Then, the alien's voice came, layered and distant. We do not fight. We run. We hide. Another blast rocked the Leviathan. The destroyers weren't waiting for an invitation. They were closing the distance, their dark ships moving in jagged, aggressive patterns. Holt slammed his hand against the console. They're not waiting, Captain. We either act or we die. Elias clenched his jaw. This was a moment, the line they had feared crossing. They had come with a ship built for war, hoping they wouldn't need to use it. Now, war had found them anyway. But something in the alien's words held him still. We run. We hide. Not we surrender. Elias turned sharply. Celine, scan their ships. They don't fight, but they've survived. How? Celine's hands moved in a blur, data streaming across her screen. Then her breath caught. Their ships, Captain, they disrupt energy fields. Their hulls are laced with some kind of dampening tech. It's not a weapon, but it could break the destroyer's targeting systems. Elias's mind locked onto the answer. They had the advantage. They just didn't use it for war. He turned back to the alien. You don't have to fight, but you can still help us win. For a moment, the alien didn't respond. Then, slowly, the colors along its body shifted. The deep violet glow returned, pulsing in time with something unseen. Across the battlefield, the alien fleet moved in unison, their ships repositioning, not to run, but to interfere. The destroyers reacted immediately. their formation breaking as their targeting struggled to lock onto the elusive, shifting fleet. Their weapons fired blindly, missing their marks as the alien vessels wove intricate, unpredictable paths through space. Holt's eyes widened. It's working. They can't get a clear shot. Elias sees the opening. Holt! Fire precision strikes. Take out their lead ship's engines. Disable, don't destroy. For the first time, Holt hesitated. Then he nodded, inputting command. The Leviathan's cannons fired, not in blind aggression, but in measured, surgical precision. The shots hit true, crippling the destroyer's lead vessel, sending it spiraling. The rest of their fleet hesitated, their formation breaking further. Kaido's voice rang out. They're retreating. On the screen, the alien leader watched the destroyers falter. The pulsing glow of its body shifted once more. Elias stepped forward. You don't need weapons to win. You just need to stop letting them decide the rules. For the first time, the alien's voice held something new. Hope. The battle was over. But something far more important had just begun.